2011 been the driest year in sort of the east of Africa since 1995, so there was little food around, there's inflation, and with the conflict going on in Somalia, you just had a mass of people just fleeing to the bordering nations.
We were responding to the Horn of Africa crisis, and we had teams in Kenya as well, but we went down into the Somali area of Ethiopia. And when we first arrived, we thought it was a massive influx of refugees due to famine and drought. But actually when we got there and spoke to a lot of the beneficiaries, it was much more complex than that, and actually they were escaping conflict and violence in a lot of their home villages. So it was a desperately difficult and complex disaster to respond to. And there are hundreds of thousands of people in need of shelter, and while we were responding in the initial phase, we've got to remember that this was a continuing crisis and had been going on for years beforehand, and it's still difficult to imagine the sheer size of the crisis. We passed 4 refugee camps each day, each with 40,000 people in them, and that's not including the transit camps and people still living under the trees. It's a huge scale disaster. But one of the most upsetting things actually was the number of children that were involved. And I'll always remember one boy who can't have been any older than the age of 12. And when I spoke to him, he told me that he was not only escaping famine, but actually escaping an abusive family. And I just can't imagine ever having to flee your home and crossing the border in a conflict zone on your own at the age of 12. And being able to give him a ShelterBox tent and make him feel secure and safe with his host family was a remarkable feeling.
The deployment to Kenya actually ended up being our largest deployment of 2011. We ended up deploying 7,000 tents, ShelterBox tents, to Dadaab, which made a huge impact on the need for emergency shelter there. But when you actually think about those 7,000 families that now have the security of a really impressive tent to live in, none of that would have actually been possible without the support of the general public, who really made that happen.